So now we're going to derive a formula for the derivative of sine of x. So the derivative of sine of x with respect to x will be cosine of x. And recall that the derivative with respect to x of sine of x is the limit as h goes to 0 sine of x plus h minus sine of x all over h. Now we can break up this sine of x plus h using the rules of trigonometry. So this is the limit as h goes to 0 of sine of x cosine of h plus cosine of x times sine of h. And all of that is just sine of x plus h minus sine of x all over h. And now I can pull a sine of x out of these two terms, and this is the limit as h goes to 0 of sine of x times cosine of h minus 1 plus cosine of x times sine of h all over h. And of course I can break this up into two fractions. It's the limit as h goes to 0 of sine of x times cosine of h minus 1 over h plus the limit as h goes to 0 of cosine of x times sine of h over h. Now recall that as h goes to 0, x is not changing. So this sine of x is a constant as far as h is concerned, so I can pull that out of the limit here. So that's sine of x times the limit as h goes to 0 of cosine of h minus 1 over h plus, and likewise I can pull out the cosine here because it's not changing as h is changing. So cosine of x times the limit as h goes to 0 of sine of h over h. Now these are the same as some limits we derived earlier with an h replacing the theta. So we saw that this limit is actually 0 and this limit is 1. And therefore this entire limit is equal to cosine of x, because this whole term goes to 0 and this whole term goes to cosine of x. So that's the derivative with respect to x of sine of x is equal to cosine of x.